name's Carrie Barton, and I'm a research scientist at Oregon State University. When I'm not there working with my fish, I race ultra endurance events on my dirt bike. We can try one more, yeah. I don't know, is the fish thing too obscure? Okay, cool. So I'm the fish nerd. My name is Carrie Barton. I'm a tiny Muppet.
Tell us about what you do first.
So I actually manage an aquatic research colony. The fish that I work with are called zebrafish, and they're actually used much in the same way that a laboratory mouse or a laboratory rat would be used. And what that is ultimately is a translational model that we can use to investigate human health concerns, everything ranging from a human's exposure to a chemical or cancer, and even things like nutritional studies.
What happened to get so
Oh, that's a tough one, actually. So before I was a racer, I'm not gonna lie, I was completely enamored with the movie Dust to Glory. I remember when it came out in the theaters, I think I went and watched it 3 times in 1 week, and the guy at the movie theater actually on the 3rd night, like looked at us and kind of rolled his eyes and was like, just go in. He didn't even charge us for the 3rd night. So I watched this movie and I was completely blown away by how these people could go out and just continue to push and push and push, because the Baja 1000 is, you know, depending on what class you're racing, anywhere between an 18 and a 36-hour event. And I was floored by it. I was super inspired by it. There was people in there that were racing solo. There was people there that were racing on teams, and it was just really kind of an impressive thing for me to watch, especially being fairly new into the sport at that time. So I got actually invited a couple years later to race on a relay team with a group of women up at Starvation Ridge. And I didn't really know that those types of races existed locally, like these big, long 24-hour relay races. And so I went up and I had this incredible experience. But while I was there, I actually noticed that there was people that were doing it solo. And I was just like, I was fixated on them, like, oh my God, these guys are so amazing. And by chance, a couple weeks later, actually, I had a chance to meet the guy that won the race that year. And I walked up to him and I said, hi, I'm Carrie, and I watched you win the Ironman event, and I'm gonna do it next year. And I just don't wanna finish, I actually wanna be on the podium. And he looked me square in the eye and he said, all right, what's your plan? And like, I had this like realization that, okay, this guy thinks actually that maybe I'm legit and I can do this. And so that's kind of how it got started. Yeah, actually, so that next year, I actually did go and do the 24 Hours of Starvation Ridge solo. You think you have this idea of what a race is gonna be like, or what an event's gonna be like, until you get in it. You know, I realized about 6 hours in, I had no clue what that was really gonna be like, what that experience was actually gonna be mentally and physically. It was a terrible weather year. It rained for hours on end, and by the time we hit the evening legs of the race, I mean, it was axle deep mud. It was wind and rain all night long. And I hit the wall at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I pushed and pushed and pushed. I hit the wall. I kind of fell on my face, and I actually had to stop, and I had to sleep for a few hours because I was just so wrecked. I remember waking up at first light and just being just done. I could hardly walk. Mentally, I was a disaster. But apparently not all the Ironmen fared that well either, because we went and checked the reader board and I was actually still in 6th place. And so it took like every ounce of my body and my mental capacity to put myself back on my bike and finish one more lap, because at that race you have to finish after 10 a.m. on the checkered flag. And so I went out barely functional, and I struggled to do a 20-mile lap in about 2 hours. But I did it, and I crossed the finish line, and that was one of those moments where I realized that I could really dig really, really deep, and I could dig a lot deeper than I realized. And we ended up finishing the race in 6th place, and I missed the podium by 1 spot, and the podium was my goal. So that actually just motivated me to kind of reassess how I was preparing for these events and try again, because the goal for me is always to go out there to try to win or get on the podium. So I think that would probably be the race that was kind of the defining moment in this kind of ultra endurance career that I've happened upon. The race at the Ridge is one of the longest running 24-hour races in the country, and it's also one of the biggest at Glen Helen down in San Bernardino, California. And that's kind of where all of the rock stars go. That's where the factory teams are. That's where, you know, you're lining up against people that race best in the desert and all these really high caliber series. I always looked at that race and was like, you know, I think I could go down there and make a statement. And so I trained for a year. I actually didn't tell anybody but about 5 people that I was gonna do the race, because I really didn't want there to be kind of like this big pressure, this, you know, like almost like a target on my back, like, oh, a girl thinks she's gonna come and, you know, wreck our race. So I just trained in secrecy for a year. Like, I would go out and I'd ride by myself. I was in the gym all the time. Like, all my friends thought I just like disappeared. Went down and was, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I was so scared that I was out of my element in terms of the terrain. And, you know, I got on the line and it actually started to rain that morning. Or no, it started raining the night before. And it hadn't rained in San Bernardino for like 9 months. All of a sudden the rain's coming down and I'm like, all right, I got this. I know how to ride in the rain. So we started the race and just, you know, picking away spots. And sometime in the middle of the night, I think I had worked my way up into a 5th place position. By sometime around 3 or 4 in the morning, I had battled up to 2nd. I was just on a mission. I don't think I'd been off the bike for longer than about 5 or 6 minutes the whole race. I was so gone. I don't even remember most of the end of the race, but it actually came down to a battle to the very last lap. And I battled for 2nd the entire morning and managed to finish 2nd place at the 24-hour endurance challenge at Glen Helen in the men's division. So that to me is probably the highest notch on my belt in terms of a race performance. Oh God, I have so many funny stories. Yeah, 24 hours, it's such a long time and so many things happen. There's absolutely no shortage of funny stories, actually. One of the most recent ones that we're still laughing about is actually down at Glen Helen. I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was starting to kind of get to that place where, you know, the willingness to go on was starting to fade. I was kind of getting a little bit despondent, and I'm hearing all this secondhand from my pit crew because I don't remember any of this really. I remember parts of it, but I was kind of out of it. So they're telling me these stories after the fact. So my 2 pit crew, one of which is Dave, my husband, the other one's a good friend of ours, Larry. I came in on a pit and they're like, get off the bike. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like trying to get off the bike. And I'm like, what's going on? They're like, we have to change that rear tire. It's junk. You know, we need to get you on a fresh tire. That's why you're struggling. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I need a new tire, okay. So I went and got a snack and I got some water and they changed my rear wheel and they put me out on the bike. And I guess I was just like, yeah, let's go. And I just clicked off like 4 laps faster than I had been all the previous night. It was just like this totally like invigorating experience. And I didn't find out till after the fact that I actually didn't need a rear tire change. They just thought it would perk me up. And so they were totally lying to me. I had no idea, but it worked. So it's all good. And now they laugh about my tires all the time. So it's been a running joke.
What advice would you give to riders?
I would say, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something. Whatever your reasons for getting into riding dirt bikes or racing dirt bikes, if that's your thing, don't let anybody's perception of you change what your vision is for yourself or what your goals are for yourself. Never give up, just be who you want to be and do what you want to do. And that's probably the most important advice I could give, because that's the people in my life that helped me get into riding and helped me excel at riding and racing were that way with me. And I think that was really important. Just be yourself, set your own goals, and don't worry about what anybody else thinks.
You could go back to self-advice.
So I'm a firm believer in, you know, the path that we're on has happened for a reason. Any of the decisions that I made 10 years ago they shaped who I am right now. So I actually don't know that I would go back and change anything, because I feel like giving advice in a way is, oh, maybe I didn't do something right, or maybe I should have done something differently. But I think that all the experiences I had leading up to where I am now all had some sort of valuable lesson. Whether or not what I was doing was successful or not, I learned from it and I used it to kind of follow the path that I'm on today.
What's next for you this year?
This year I'm going to be doing an event called the Tour of Idaho Challenge. And it's a 1,700-mile unsupported navigation dirt bike adventure challenge. The event's been going on for, I think, like 13 or 14 years. It starts at the southern border of Idaho, and you navigate all the way through a predetermined route with a GPS unit to the northern border of Idaho. You can do it as a soloist, you can do it in teams. And actually this year, all of the big endurance races that I've done, my husband Dave and our friend Larry have selflessly been my pit crew. They've helped me train, they've been my training partners. We really actually wanted to do a riding adventure together, not just them standing in the pits as I go around lap after lap. So we decided to do this and have been preparing for it for quite a long time now. A lot different than what I've been doing up until now, but I think it's gonna be a really interesting test of mind, body, and bike.
In what way?
I feel like I break the mold kind of by being the perfect example of the improbable dirt bike racer. You know, I'm a female. I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm racing not just in a male-dominated sport, but in men's categories in a male-dominated sport. I'm doing Ironman 24-hour races, which is something that not a lot of women were involved in until recently. And by doing all those things, I feel like I'm really hoping that I can be a role model for men and women who want to be involved in those types of sports. I'm to the place now where I have people like emailing me or getting a hold of me on social media to ask, how do you do a 24? I want to try one. And at first this was just women, and more recently I've actually had men that I don't even know contacting me like, hey, what's your training plan? I need some advice. And so I feel like I'm breaking the mold by being, you know, not your average dirt bike racer, but still going out there and being a racer and doing things and accomplishing my goals.